Hey Joe, this interview with Joe Danni is sponsored by Boomers and Beyond, a nonprofit organization, and financed through grants and donations. Filming and production is done by Bob Wertko and Rita Bond of Third Eye Productions. And we want to hear your stories, Joe. So, if you can start by telling us where you were born and raised, and a little bit about your family, where your parents came from. Were they immigrants? But tell us where you were born and raised.
Okay, I was born in, we lived on a ranch, but I gathered I was born in Gunnison, and in 1927. What else you want? We lived, at that time, the ranch was on the west side of East River. And to get to the highway, you had to drive down about a mile down along the field, and then you got to Alkali Road, and another half a mile to got the highway, 135. So to go to school, when I started going to school, my dad built a footbridge across East River. And of course, either my mother or dad walked with us to cross the bridge until he got a little older. And I went there through, I think through the 6th grade before we moved. But it was kind of a challenge. You go across this footbridge and then across the field where Langspan usually had bulls there, and over to the water tank, railroad, and then up to the highway and down to the school. And I tell my sons it was 2 miles uphill both ways, but it really wasn't uphill both ways, but it seemed like it.
So where did you go to school?
At Jack's Cabin through the 8th grade. Jack's Cabin Country School, it's not there anymore, but it was a typical rural country school where all 8th grades went to the same, and I went through all 8th grade with just one time I had 2 people in my grade. My 7th and 8th grade I was all alone. I mean the only one. And it was good because I had an excellent teacher, and so she just pushed me. She let me do my own thing and just kept pushing me, which helped when I got to high school. I had algebra when I was in, of course now they do algebra in grade school. Them days you never did. And went to high school and said I already had algebra. So they gave me a good start in there. But the country schools, they're typical of all of them, but it was a social part of the valley. And they not only did school there, they had the community got together for potlucks and dances, and it was just kind of a center part of the valley. I don't know what else you want to know about school.
Okay, so then did you ride the bus to high school?
No, when they didn't have buses in them days. So when I got to go to high school, I boarded in Gunnison. And boarded in different places till they got tired of me and kicked me out, and then I'd find somewhere else. And my senior year, I boarded in, which was the cruise place then. But anyway, I boarded there through my senior year, and the gal across the street I ended up marrying. We walked to school together. So it worked in pretty good. But when I first moved to this Dr. Bonner had the place, and they did run into a lot of different high school kids. And I think I was looking my dad was trying to find me another place, and he's a good friend of the Mikey Fisher, who was the county treasurer, and he says there's an opening in Dr. Bonner's place where he lived, but he said the only trouble is downstairs there's 6 girls from Powderhorn, I said, I'll take it. So anyway, I did that through my senior year.
Okay. So,
Story of my life.
and so you stayed there, did you come home on weekends?
Come home on weekends, and I did get a 37 Chevy on my senior year, and I would drive back and forth sometimes. But most of the time I could stay there until I graduated. And as soon as I graduated, I joined the Navy. I wanted to get in before the war was over, and it was still going on. But the time I didn't get to, which was probably good at the time, but I wanted to get there where there's still some shooting. But I didn't make it. But
So how long were you in the Navy?
a little over 3 years.
Where were you stationed?
All over, but most of the time I spent a good part of the time I was in the submarine service. And they asked me what I did in the war, and I said I cruised around the Caribbean. I stopped in a lot of exotic ports. We did Havana, Cuba. We did Virgin Islands, and all of Uncle Sam's Dollar. So it worked pretty good. But yeah, I enjoyed my service here. Then come home and went to school a while and got married and started ranching.
Did you go to college?
I went.
Okay, we were talking about your military service. So you were in for 3 years, and then you came home and got married.
Came home, got married, and bought the ranch from my dad and my granddad. Well, I bought it from my granddad, and my dad and I went in partners in his part, and stuck there ever since. But I did take the GI Bill for 3 years. It's a CSU extension, and mainly because I can make more money on there than I could anywhere else. But outside of that,
So you went to CSU?
it was through CSU extension.
GI Bill.
I
Okay.
went 5 nights a week I did it for about 3 years.
And then you came back to the ranch.
Yeah, well, it's during the business at the ranch when I was going there, but it was down there at Westerns and we did it, but it's through CSU extension.
Okay, so you bought the ranch from your granddad. Now, how
Well,
was he an
my
immigrant?
granddad, when he came over from Italy in 1913, I think. Anyway, he came to Crested Butte. How he found the way there, I don't know. Somebody told him. He was there about 2 years. Then he sent for my dad and the rest of the family. And then they lived in Crested Butte. So my granddad, I think around 1913 somewhere, he bought the ranch down in Jascabin Valley. But he brought the family over, and like I said, my dad didn't know a bit of English when he came over, and they put him in first grade. And apparently did all right because he ended up being a county commissioner for 18 years. And was in all the politics and on the water board and all that. So, but anyway, my dad joined the Army in 1917 and spent about 2 years in France. And then he came home and got married and bought a ranch south of my granddad's and homesteaded another 640 acres, and they're all kind of together. And that's where I was born, on that ranch. Like I said, it was down on the west side of the East River, kind of a long ways around to get to the road. That's when he built the footbridge so we could go to school. But I lived there for, I think I was about 9 years old when they built a new house on the other side of the river next to the road. And it was quite a difference, because there we had electricity, running water. It's pretty much of a shock, because before we had, gas lights or coal oil lights, had the outhouse. And it's a pretty step up when you got to turn on a faucet and you get running water, and you turn on a light bulb.
And you were 9 years old when he bought that place?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's when I still went to school, but I didn't have to go across the footbridge. I just walked down a lot of times we'd walk down the railroad track because they always kept it plowed. Or a lot of times we'd ride a horse or ride a mule to school. And they had a shed there where you could keep the mules or the horse, whatever he's riding. And I had a little hay there, and you could feed it, and you'd get on and ride home. Most of the kids in the valley rode horses. They're pretty proud of their horses. And I kind of liked my old mule, and they kind of made fun of my old mule. And so I challenged it to a race one time, and that old mule loved to run. So it just outrun every one of their horses. So I decided that mule wasn't too bad. But, I don't know how long I had him. Then I switched to a horse, but I rode all my life. I loved riding. But, like I said, after that, I went to high school and Navy, and then come back and went to ranching.
Okay, so your dad, did he marry a Gunnison girl?
No, he married a gal from Denver, who her dad, she's a Ferguson. Like I said, I'm half Scotch and half Italian. But they met when she worked in Crested Butte in the post office. And then they kept corresponding until he come back out of the Army, and then they got married. And that's when they settled down on the ranch here in Jack's Cabin.
Okay. And what was her maiden name?
Isabel. Bella. They called her Bella. And my one great-granddaughter is named Bella now, after her.
And what was her maiden name?
Ferguson.
Ferguson. Okay.
Like I said, I'm quite a combination. Half Scotch and half Italian.
So what did your grandfather do in Italy? Was he a farmer?
Well, the thing is, there are always big families then, and they had a farm, and of course, they had to get rid of the kids, had to go somewhere because they can't all support them. And then he started working on the railroad tunnel between France and Italy. And that's where my dad was born, on France side of the tunnel. And then he come to this country. He was a carpenter, a blacksmith, not everything. And when he bought the ranch down there, it was not much of a ranch. He built a lot of other buildings afterwards, and he was quite a carpenter. And tried to teach me a blacksmithing, but I didn't learn too good. But he lived there until he died. And like I said, it was a joy. Even after we moved across the river, we're still all together there.
So your grandfather had the original ranch, then your father bought more property.
Yeah, my granddad bought that ranch.
And then did they combine the ranches together?
1913 and then when my dad come out of the Army, he bought the one just south of there.
So then did they...
And then he homesteaded, at that time you could homestead 640 acres, so he did homesteaded a piece altogether there. And that's the one I ended up with.
And what happened to the home place then?
The home place got sold to, well, it went through a couple ones, and then the Andriettas are the last ones that owned it.
So Do you have brothers and sisters?
Had one sister.
And is she,
She was 2 years older than me.
and did she still live in the Gunnison Valley? Did she marry someone?
She's dead now, but she married Paul Vader. They had 11 kids. 10 of them are still alive. So I have lots of nieces and nephews.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
What was the process to homestead?
Oh, tell us about how they went about homesteading. What was the process that they...
When you take out a piece of land that you want at that time, and you're supposed to live on it, you're supposed to build a cabin or something, and you're supposed to live on it good part of the time for, for 3 years. And then you get the deed to it. And my dad built a little cabin. Later on, he moved it down to the ranch for a bunkhouse. And he put a lot of pots and pans in, is what he told me. And hung some clothes up. It looked like it had been lived in. And so if anybody expected, yeah, it's lived in. But I think that's the way most of them did, the homesteads. A lot of the old homesteads, somebody's working for a rancher, they'd hire him to homestead someplace for him, and while they're still working for the rancher. And then when they got proved up, then the rancher would take over the homestead. That's the way a lot of these ranches got expanded. At that time, they started out, the homestead was 160 acres, and they found out in this mountain country you can't do much on 160 acres, so that's when they expanded them to 640. But, that's a lot of ways ranchers got big like they did. Like I said, they hired one of their ranch hands to go homestead for them, and they picked it up when they finished the homestead or proved up on it.
So, when you were growing up, what did you do for fun?
Well, we didn't have all the things now, but we did our own fun. Of course, the kids, we'd climb mountains, we'd ride horses, we'd go fishing, go skiing. We did our own. I mean, you didn't have everything laid out. You got to do this and that. And yeah, we had fun all the time. Growing up, we hardly ever got to go to Gunnison. We'd go down Saturdays probably, and that's when the folks would do their shopping, and we'd get to go to a movie in an old Unique Theater, see a Western or something. But and then Cattleman's days, we'd go to town, but that was about it. But,
So what was the difference between summer and winter? What different things did you do in the winter than in the summer? Was there a difference in what you did during the winter and the summer? And did you play with your sister, or?
Well, there's a lot of neighbors' kids. We'd get together, everybody, and in the summer, like I said, we'd always have something to do. We'd play baseball, we'd fish, and work. You got big enough to do anything. Your dad put you to work, and not hard work, but you had to work. And then, of course, in the winter, we did a lot of skiing. We had our old homemade skis, and then later on, when I sent to Monkey Ward's and ordered my first store-bought skis. And you order the skis and the binders separate and put them together. And of course, they had the old cable binders, which people would kind of laugh at it now, but we'd ski on Quicks Hill, was across from Cement Creek Road, and that's where Western State did a lot of their skiing there. But there was no tow there. You walked up, packed it down, spent a half a day packing it, and then half a day skiing. Then later on, I was still in school. They built the Pioneer Ski Area, which was the first chairlift in Colorado, and it was pretty nice. You get to ride up to this. Trouble is, they built the one in the summertime, and they didn't build the chairs high enough off the ground. And they got a big winter. If you leave the tips of your skis down, you hooked them in the snow, and then you crashed off the ski or off the chair. So the next year they raised the chairs a little bit, but and then we skied there. That was a pretty popular place to ski.
What years were those? When did they? Do you remember when they started Pioneer? Was that about 1940?
That's about early 40s.
Early 40s.
Yeah. Well, it'd have to be early. That'd be in the 39, something like that. And they used that until, till the war started, and then of course nothing could, you couldn't get gas or anything, and it never started after the war again. But then we'd ski up at Rosman Hill. They had a ski area up there, and it wasn't much of a ski area, but it had a good jump there. And of course after that, then Crested Butte ski area come in. So I skied them all. But we loved to ski, and even before they had the one in Crested Butte, we'd go to Monarch. Monarch was, in business then, and we'd go to Monarch and ski.
Huh.
How much did it cost?
How much did it cost to ski, Joe?
That's a good question. I can't remember, but I'm sure it wasn't very much.
I think it was around $3 a day.
Yeah. And of course, we started skiing the old boots and the cable binders, and gradually we found out you had to get a little more stuff, but we never did get quite fancy like them they're doing now. But it was a good, even on the ranch here, we'd always take time enough to go skiing. And even after I got married and the kids were born, we'd still do a lot of skiing, we'd do a lot of hiking, we'd do camping. We kept going outdoors all the time. But when I was growing up, probably from when 6th grade on, I'd work for my dad a lot, but that wasn't as much fun, so I'd ride for different ranchers in the valley and ride to the one pool or the other. And so I, all through high school, I'd spend the summers riding for one or the other when I wasn't working for my dad. And I don't think it paid any better, but I got to do things I wanted to do, and so it was fun. And at that time there was the big cattle pools, and there was a lot of riding to do, and I did all the ones: Gothic, Brush Creek, Spring Creek, Washington Gulch. I was able to ride in all those places.
Well, tell us about your mom and dad. What were they like?
Well, I'm not sure. They were good people. I'm not sure, but like I said, my dad was, came over with no English at all, and he was good about anything. And the same with my mother. She, of course, she was real active in American Legion welfare, which is now something like 6 points, but they collected food and clothes and for the kids. She was active in that. They were both active in the Legion and the American Legion Auxiliary. And they had, Jackstown Valley at that time had a lot of different ranches. Now it's about 2, the whole valley, but that time there's a lot of small ranches. And they have their clubs, they get together, and my mother started a little ladies club that they'd meet every so often. They called it the Give and Take Club. And I don't know what they gave and took, but it was an interesting little club. And like I said, they were active in the valley then. I mean, you didn't go to town to do these things, you had them right there.
And your dad got involved in politics?
He got involved in politics. Yeah, he's, like I said, could have had commissioner all of his life if he wanted, but after 18 years, he said that's enough. And then he wanted to travel a little more, and so that's when they quit, and he resigned from that, and they took some trips back to Italy. But yeah, he was on the water board, and a little about everything. Then he got me started on. He's one of the starters on the conservation district that got it formed. And then I spent, later on, I spent 18 years or 30 years on the Gunnison Water or Soil Conservation District. And then he got me started on that. And then, of course, I went on the State Conservation Board and on the Mine Land Reclamation Board afterwards. Which was somewhat different. I enjoyed it.
So you really gave back to the community. So now tell us about your courtship life, and was she a Gunnison girl, and what was her maiden name? And
My wife? Yeah. Well, like I said, she was a dean. She lived across the road from where I boarded, and we'd walk to school together. And I think I took her to senior prom, and then I went in the Navy. And we still corresponded all the time I was in the Navy. She went on to college and come back, and we got married.
So tell us about your wedding. Where were you married, and was it a big wedding?
No, I married in the community church, and I had some neighbors and friends, but no, it wasn't any big hoodoo. I had a reception over in Webster Hall. I can't remember too much about it, but I was in a hurry to get out of town and start the honeymoon.
Where did you go on your honeymoon?
We went to Colorado Springs and then over to Denver and up to Cheyenne, Wyoming. Big trip.
What was her first name?
Gwen.
Gwen. Did she have brothers and sisters?
Yeah. And 2 brothers, 2 sisters. And two of her sisters are still alive, and one of her brothers.
So she was raised in town.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you probably know where the place was, because I think you grew up right next door to
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm. So what year were you married, Joe?
1948.
1948. Okay.
That was a tough question, I didn't remember.
You're doing wonderful. I can't believe you can remember all this. This is great. Did Gwen ever work?
Yeah. Well, I tell the story that so I could afford to keep ranching, I put her to work, which was probably more truth than poetry, but she liked to work. She started working. Both boys wanted to take football, and so they'd always stay after. Of course, they was running the bus at that time, and they'd have to stay for football practice. So she'd have to go down and pick them up, because the bus, would already be gone. She said, as long as I'm going to town every day, I might as well get a job. And so that's when she started working. And she worked in the Gunnison Bank and Trust for about 30 years.
So then how many children did you have?
The 2 boys.
2 boys. Are they here in Gunnison? Or
One's in Evergreen, and they both traveled all over the country, but my son Joe is back here in North Elk Meadows now. And he still works, but on a computer.
And what does the other boy do in Evergreen?
He's working a mining company.
And they have children?
They Yeah, like I said, Joe's had three kids, and he's the one that's got all the grandkids now. My other son Jerry had two on his first marriage. One of them, Nick, is still here and runs a shop in Crested Butte. And then, of course, he's on his second marriage. He's got a 17-year-old son.
Well, what were your holidays like? How did you celebrate the holidays? Was it a big celebration for Christmas?
Yeah, we used to get together a lot of times. Christmas was always get together with my folks. Even when my sister had all of her kids, they'd all pack them in the house and they'd have Christmas dinner there. New Year's was a big deal. We'd go dancing. And of course, we loved to dance. Both Gwen and I loved to dance. And every Saturday we'd go somewhere to dance. And at that time, Crested Butte was a polka party going somewhere every Saturday night. And so we loved to go out and go polking. But on New Year's, you'd start in early, one place or another, and then end up in somebody's place for breakfast. Then you come back home and change clothes and go feed the cows. Yeah, recreation. We did most of our recreation in the upper end, in the Crested Butte area. And it was more of a fun town, even though I went to school in Gunnison.
So you more identify more with the Crested Butte area than Gunnison.
It's all changed now, but even after they closed the mine there, and the town was, a lot of people left, it's still a fun place. And like I said, we loved to dance, and there was always, Saturday night there was always a dance somewhere.
Almont or?
Well, then, Almont. It was pretty good dances there in the summertime.
Did you ever go up to Juanita Hot Springs for dances?
Yeah, not the dances. We would go there and swim once in a while.
I guess they had dances up there in the 30s mostly.
I think I did hear about it, but then of course they had the old Wilderness Lodge.
Oh, that's
You probably remember that. Just down west of town. It's not under the dam now, but it's gone. But there was dances there.
Yeah, they had some interesting times with fighting and so forth, didn't they? You have any memories of those? How the guys would go outside and fight at intermission?
Yeah. Well, and then, of course, Almont had the annual fish fry right after Cattleman's Days every year. And everybody go out and catch fish, and you line up and go through fish and potato salad. It was a big thing. And then when Wendell Wilkie was running for president, Danny Bush says he's the best man that never won the presidency. But anyway, they had 10,000 people at Almont. And that was the last year of fish fry. They couldn't do it anymore. But he gave a speech here at the railroad depot. And I think I was in the 8th grade or something like that. And I sat there and watched him sit on the boxcar, and like I said, 10,000 people in Almont. And I don't know, they kind of quit the fish fries after that. But I don't know, summers were always fun. There's always something to do. Well, winters. And like I said, you got cows to feed, you really couldn't get out a whole lot, but we still took time to do it.
So what was a typical day in the life of a rancher? What was your typical day like?
Well, you talk about summer, spring, winter.
Well, tell us about each one. I bet you got up early in the morning.
Well, in the spring of the year, of course, is when you got your calving. That was everyday chore. I mean, waiting, getting the calves, coming in and taking care of them, a lot of nights out. Then you had to go drag the fields, get your water on, get the cows branded and turned out. Yeah, it was busy. Then you kind of got to relax a little. All you were doing is irrigating and checking cows. That's when you had a little more time to go camping and go fishing. And in the fall, you usually got a little more of a break. You got to go hunting, and I love to go hunting. And of course, we had milk cows till I told him till I weaned the kids, we got rid of the milk cows. But I like to go hunting, and so I taught my wife how to milk cows, so I could sneak out and go hunting. But he had one ornery old cow that liked to kick. And so she's milking one time, and it put its tail in the fresh manure and slapped her across the face with it. So she turned the cow out and said, "To heck with it." And I come back, she said, "I haven't milked that cow for 3 days." I'm sorry. But anyway, it was fun.
Well, did you have a permit for how big a cow deal did you have? Was it, did you have a permit to get on the forest, or?
No, we never had a forest permit. We had all private land. And that's kind of one of the reasons that we finally ended up selling. I kept leasing pieces of land out of one place or another, and then somebody come in and outbid me on it. Well, I don't know if you know where Crested Butte South is now, but I leased that for quite a few years. And then developer come in. Well, I couldn't run a cow on that kind of, pay $10,000 an acre to run a cow on, so that's why we finally decided it's just too hard to try to find a place to lease. So. But no, we never did have a forest permit.
How do you get a forest permit?
Well, most of them you either got to get it to start with. They come down
Right.
from the centuries, or if somebody owns a permit, you either got to buy it from them, or you got to buy the cows.
You had to convince the Forest Service that you needed a permit?
No, their permits are all gone. Everything's taken. The only way you could ever get, I mean, there's no new ones. The only way you could get them is usually you buy the cattle, which runs on that permit, and then you get the permit with it. But you can't just go buy a permit. And that's...
It was a Forest Service that gave them, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were all taken up years ago. And of course, all over the country there was, well, like Taylor Park had a couple thousand head of cattle. Now there's probably a few hundred. And all over the country there's a lot of cattle running. Now they're all hardly any anymore. Most of the permits, once you go off them, you abandon it, and they're gone. Then you can't, they're not there anymore. So a lot of the ones like up Cement Creek, that used to be a lot of cattle run there, and those permits are all gone. So, nobody can ever get another one there.
So
And
what?
a fraction of the cattle that there was.
Yeah. Did you have all Herefords?
We started out with Herefords, then we went to Angus Cross, we call them Black Ballies, and then ended up with Solers, which is a French breed. But I liked them. They were my favorite ones. I wished I started sooner, because they were easy calving. They had small calves, so they're easy calving. The calves would jump up and start looking for something to eat right away, and yet they grew so fast that they'd outweigh in the fall. They'd outweigh the other Herefords. So I really liked them, but I only had them for about 7 or 8 years.
Were your kids in 4-H? And
Oh yeah.
they did all of that?
Yeah, they were 4-H. And Gwen and I were 4-H leaders for a number of years.
So, you had chores for your kids when they were growing up, I expect.
Had what?
You had chores for your kids when they were growing
Oh,
up.
yeah.
What was different about that from the chores that you had when you were growing up?
Well, yeah, but they still had their chores. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't come to town and do all this recreation like we got now. Yeah, they more or less did their own, but yeah, they all had chores. And
Did the kids have to milk?
did what?
Did your kids have to milk the cows? Or were
Oh,
you?
yeah.
you were-
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they had to learn all that. And they had to learn all the fun stuff too. I had to learn how to fish and hunt and ski, and I made sure and hike. It was a great, when we do family stuff, we camp out as a family, and that,
Where did you go camping?
everywhere. Usually in, North Crested Butte. In Taylor Park, we camped Taylor Park quite a bit. But mostly up in the Gothic area. But,
Did you tent camp?
tent camped, yeah. And after the kids grew up, then we bought a pickup camper. But we always tent camped when the kids were there. Yeah.
So do you have any memories of really bad winters? And how did that affect your cow operation?
Well, of course, like I said, you got to be an old timer, but you talked about the winter of '52 was the winter. And I thought it was kind of fun. We had trouble feeding that year, but that's the last year that the train run to Crested Butte. After that, they closed the line. But I remember the rotary snowplow went, right in front of our place. They had the rotary snowplow and they pushed banks on either side. So I'd have to go out and shovel the banks so we could get across the road. But yeah, that was the big winter. But yeah, there's a few winters that's tough feeding. We fed horses and a team of horses and a sled. I loved to work horses. And even when people went to tractors and stuff, but I still fed with a team of horses because I love working horses. And they usually start pretty good in the morning. But some of those big winters, it was tough breaking trails, so we'd unhook from the sled, take the team and the double tree and drive around to break a road first before he went back and hooked up to the sled. And trying to keep the feed grounds open was tough. And then you get a good team of horses. They knew more about feeding than you did. If you changed the route, well, they got pretty upset. But a good team of horses, you build up a snowpack on a sled trail, and they know how to walk right down the sled tracks. You get one that doesn't know what they're doing, they slip off the track and they get founder and fall, and so your horses had to get educated to that. But I liked it. I liked working horses. Of course, so we stacked hay for years before we went to baling. And you get out in the cold morning and time to get the horses harnessed, hooked up to the sled, you're pretty darn cold. So you hurry up and get to the haystack so you can start pitching hay and warm up a little bit. But even when we went to baling, I still fed with a team of horses.
Did your kids have to get up and help you feed before they went to school?
No.
Did you when you were younger?
Yeah, I think I did sometime, but no, I really don't, because you didn't get time to do it before you went to school. But on weekends, they'd always feed. In fact, a lot of times I'd get the day off and let them do the feeding. But yeah, it was one thing you had to do. And old cows got unhappy if he didn't feed them in the morning.
So how about water? Did you have to go break ice on the creek?
No, we were fortunate. We had open water all through the ranch. And we had it in 4 different pastures. We had open water, so we were fortunate. But it's a little different now. They got the tractors with the closed-in cab. They got their heaters on it. They never get off the cab. They feed their cows without ever getting off. I'm sure they're about as tough as we are, but a lot of them don't even know what it's like to have to get out and lift a bale of hay on a wagon or a sled. But it didn't hurt me. Right now, I don't think I could lift a bale of hay, but
Well, going back a little bit, when the first time you moved away from home was when you went to the military,
yeah.
and then when you came back, where did you live when you and Gwen got married?
We bought my dad's house there, and he built a house next to it, because his house, the one I told you that he built a new one across the river, but he had an upstairs in it, 3 bedrooms upstairs. And so when we come back, he said, I want you to have this house. I want a house on 1 floor. So we got stuck with the upstairs, which is fine, and he built a little house right next to it. And it's still there. We kept that. So that's parts that we kept when we sold the ranch.
Where did the teachers live? Did they commute from Gunnison to teach you in the school at Jack's Cabin?
Jack's Cabin School. The ones I remember boarded down with the Shackerford place, which is about a mile below the school. And they'd have to walk to school too, like everybody else. Only they had to get there early to get the fire going, and especially in the wintertime, they'd have to pump the water and get it there and get the fire started before, if the snow had shoveled the steps off.
Was it a 1-room schoolhouse?
Yeah, a 1-room schoolhouse.
With just 1 teacher?
1 teacher in 8th grade.
Oh my. 8 grades she was teaching.
That's the way, there was country schools all around the county at that time. And of course, we got the Doyleville one down in the museum. The Paragon one, which is not a real country schoolhouse, it's a little different, but it was through 8th grade. But they were all over the county because, you couldn't come to town. There was no buses, so.
Did they change teachers very often? Did they last?
Yeah, I had 2 teachers, and like I said, from my 6th grade through the 8th grade, she was a married gal that her husband was off somewhere, so she was a real good teacher. And I thought I learned more from her because I was the only one in that grade, and she just let me go, push me. She just kept doing this and kept doing that. And so I think I learned more than I probably would have. But yeah, country school was fun. There's always things to do there. Recess, you had recess. I don't know, I think 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. You always went out and threw snowballs or else played ball in the summer and in the spring. And did school, all the kids did hike somewhere. It's typical of all the country schools, I'm sure. In the end of school year, all the country schools would get together at Western State, and each one would put on a little skid or play or something, and then they'd go out and have races and play ball. And so you got to meet the kids from the other country schools, and like next year you'd be in high school, you'd say, I remember you from back in the 8th grade party.
So did you go to school at the Blackstock School?
No, no. Where it's not there anymore.
The high school.
I never even went to junior high there. I went to the high school there. Was all the high school and junior high at that time, but
The one they tore down.
yeah. But yeah, that was, no, that's where I started school.
So was there kind of a rivalry between the creeks, the Tomichi Creek and East River, and they all had their own social groups. Did any of you all get together at any time?
The schools?
Yeah, for the social part of, they had this school on Tomichi, and I know that the women's groups, the extensions groups, they had one at Tomichi Creek, and they were
I
all-
see what you mean. Yeah, I don't know. I think one Jack Cabin, you were talking about the little ladies groups and that. I think that was just in that area there, whether they ever mixed with any others or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
Well, one of the questions is, what was your most treasured possession when you were growing up? Your
Oh.
horse? What was your most, did you have a hideout? Most kids have a tree house or a place that they like to go and call their own. Did you have one of those?
no,
The whole ranch was your place, huh?
I can't think of anywhere. Yeah, I had a lot of places I liked to go hiking when I was a kid or stuff, but no, I can't remember anything special.
So what was the happiest time of your life?
Oh, I don't know. I had a lot of happy times. I don't know. I can't specify any special happy time.
It was all, well, I understand you and your wife traveled quite a bit. Did you travel quite a bit with Gwen?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We did a lot of traveling. We loved travel. Usually the fall year when things calmed down, we'd go. And then after we sold the place, we still traveled. But
Did you go to Italy? Did you go back to Italy?
yeah, we went. First time we went back to Italy, we went in with a church group, and they took the tour through. Well, we went to Almaramagel, the Passion Play, and then went down through Germany, France, Italy, Switzerland, but it was always in a group, And we went close to where my ancestors, but we couldn't go there. So Gwen and I decided we're going to go back, and so we did on just our own. Went there just to that area in northern Italy. Looked up a lot of our second, third, fourth cousins that were still there.
Really?
And enjoyed that. So 6 years ago, I took my two sons and their family, and we went back to Italy. And back to the old homestead. We've still found some relatives,
Oh, for heaven's sake.
and we found a cemetery with a lot of, my granddad's grave, a lot of other people I knew graves there. So it's still, it was a fun trip because we got I think the little town of Pavone, I don't think it's probably changed since my granddad left there. It's got electricity now and it's got running water, but I think the little cobblestone streets are just the same, and so we enjoyed it. And we stayed in a castle that was a medieval castle, but of course they put running water and electricity in it, but it was a real castle. It was fun.
Well, did any of your grandfather's siblings come or over here, or did he just come by himself?
No, he had two brothers came over afterwards, and they all lived in Crested Butte for a while, and then one of the brothers moved to Buffalo, New York, and there's still still Danny's there, his offspring, and practically the only Danny's left in the country that I know of, and I still correspond with. It's not too common a name anymore. Here it is in Italy, but here it isn't. So usually if I find a Danny, I figure it's got to be a relative. In the museum there's Carolina Diani, spelled D-I-A-N-I. And somebody said, we got a relative here, so I had to look her up. She spells it the same, spells it different, but pronounces it about the same. But she's no relation. But
Was she Italian?
yeah, her folks were
Just spelled it
her
different.
husbands.
Huh.
But no, the Dannies are pretty scarce around here anymore.
Well, are there any special lessons you learned in life as you lived your life?
I don't know what special lessons.
You've got a
I don't know if I ever
wonderful,
learned anything or not.
you've got a wonderful sense of humor.
Well, I just enjoy people. I mean, I always did. And I never was a good loner. And that's why I'm having trouble now. But I love people. I love to be around people. And like I said, I like to visit, if I could remember what I was talking about.
I think you've done an excellent job.
But, no, I had a lot of good memories. I to list the best ones, I'd have trouble. So, I think some of the best memories, of course, when I get my kids together, and even now, when I get my two boys together, and we all get to visit, and I think that's still fun.
Well, are there any other stories that you would like to tell us? What would you like to tell the young people today?
Well, I don't know. You gotta work. You can't just be a hippie all your life. You gotta learn to work. And no matter what, there's always something to do. And there's so many more that they think, they owe me a living. I don't have to do anything. No, you gotta go out, and they keep pushing, go to school. Well, go to school's fine, but you also gotta make something out of it. You can't just go to school to get your paper and then go on. You gotta do something. I mean, it isn't just school. You've gotta make something of it. So many of them are just wander what to do. Maybe it's fine, I don't know. I think I was just the opposite. I just knew what I wanted to do and I followed up and did it, but not everybody has that chance, I guess.
Well, I think the kids have a big choice of what they can do, and there's so many choices they don't know what they want to do.
Well, that's it. Maybe there's too many anymore.
Yeah.
It's not a lot that you can think of on your own anymore, which you should do. So, I don't know. But it is different now. Like I said, I miss visiting with the old timers, because a lot of times I find somebody, we sit there and talk forever. But they're getting scarce anymore.
Do you have any questions, Bob? Well, if you can't think of anything else,
I don't know why.
this has been a very good interview, Joe, and you've told us some
I don't
stories.
know if it was or not. I have trouble remembering and thinking. And
It's just, we just need to know what it was like and to keep those memories so that people can understand. It was hard a lot of times. They don't.
well, yeah, you think it's hard, but we didn't know it was hard.
No,
We didn't think so.
But without a thermostat to turn up, and
Yeah,
without running water, and you had oil lamps, and
Well, like I said, when we moved to the new house, we just, we couldn't believe it. You pull the switch, of course then you just had strings on the lamps. You pull that and the light come on. You turn on the faucet and the water comes out. It was quite
well, thank you, Joe, very much, and
Well,
it's going to be nice to have this on file in the library. We really appreciate all you've done to.
Well, now what are you going to do with this? You just,
It's going to be a DVD, and it's going to be in the library so other people can hear your
well,
story.
that's what I was wondering, because I know my son would love to.
And
Then you go there to listen, is that right?
yeah, they can check them out.
Well, you can check them out.